Hello, and welcome to episode 45 of the Carry On with Carrie podcast. Today's guest, you're going to love her. She's so full of personality. She's amazing. Her name is Jess. She, her are her pronouns, and she is the host of another podcast, and it's about mental health and anxiety and all that stuff. It's called the Panic Button Podcast. She has developed an affinity for mental health advocacy after surviving with panic disorder and generalized anxiety disorder for over 8 years. The Panic Button Podcast was a passion project that began in January of 2024, and it's based on Jess's desire to share her own story and in hopes of helping fellow survivors of mental health related concerns. She strives to create a brave space that openly discusses coping mechanisms, strategies, education, authenticity, and much more. She's also a mom of a toddler, a sarcasm enthusiast, Lego builder, which is awesome, and a movie watcher. So, without further ado, now it's time to talk. Welcome to the show, Jess. I'm really excited to have you on here finally. We've talked quite a few times. I've been on yours, and welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. It's really awesome to get the chance to talk to you more and loved having you on my podcast. That was a hit. So hoping we knock this one out of the park as well.
Yeah, I have no doubt that we will. I'm you your space that you're allowing for, like, all the things that I kind of highlighted in the beginning here is all the things, the reasons I started podcasting, and that's why, like, just when you contacted me and how we've talked and things have flowed since then, it's been awesome. Can you let the listeners know a little bit more about your background, and I want them to find out how awesome you are.
Yeah, definitely. So I have been battling generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder since I believe 2016. 2016, yeah, around there. I got diagnosed with that when I was completing my senior year of college. So that kind of changed a lot. I was focused on graduating, deciding what I was going to do career wise. And then I was just totally taken aback when I started having panic attacks and didn't know what was going on. And my first instinct was, I have a medical issue. Something is definitely wrong with me, as we jump to the worst.
Yes.
um, but after a couple evaluations and talking to people, we were able to narrow it down that I did not have a health concern internally, but I was battling things mentally. So basically, that kind of altered my outlook on everything from that point, because anxiety and panic disorder wasn't something that you really had heard about as much. And I'm not. I laugh. I tell people I'm not old, but I'm not young, right? I'm going to be 30 this year. And in 2016, when I was in college, in my 20s, we didn't talk about that. It was, you knew some people had depression and battled that, but you didn't know until you did it yourself or you were battling yourself really how it was. There wasn't a ton of information. People weren't actively talking about it. So I just kind of had to dive into that pool by myself. And I called up my mom and I had told her what was going on. And at that point, it really took a toll on me, where I was like, if you don't come here to help me, I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was literally either she came to help me figure it out, or I was going to give up my education, and I was so close to graduating.
Right.
So she actually did come and visit me, and we figured it out, got on some medication, was talking to some therapists, and it's just been a journey since. I did graduate. So I did not deter that from my future. I graduated. I moved back home. I started a job, and things were turning around. And as I've gotten older and my life has changed, anxiety has kind of creeped up back on me, and it's changed my life differently than when I was younger. if that makes any sense. It just affects me differently now.
Yep.
For instance, I got married. How old was I? Probably 20, in my early 20s, I got married. Um, and then me and my wife at the time, we had a baby. And that was right during the pandemic. So that right there was like a first trigger back into anxiety, and just life being chaotic. And, here I am now at home with a newborn baby, a new wife. And then coming out of the pandemic, my wife and I actually got a divorce. So now I am a co parent with her and we have a son together. So, yes, I am a toddler mom and living the dream over here with that. But that's a story for a different time.
Yep.
He's great, though. He's a really good guy. But that changed a lot for me. I've been through a divorce. I have a child who will be 4 years old this March. And then my dad passed away in 2022. So those three things have really tested my anxiety. they have they have very much so tested my limits, tested my strength. Um, and I'm here for the journey. I'm here to figure it out. I'm here to find out what works best for me, as well as talking to people on my podcast and like you do, what works for everyone else and how we figure it out and how we get through it. But that's a little bit more about my story and kind of where I'm at today. I actively do go to therapy still. And I do take medication for my anxiety. And one day the goal is to not, right? It would be great, but I just know right now, realistically, I'm not in a spot where I can do that. I have a very, very busy life. I work remote while watching my son, and it's just we're living the dream over here.
Right. Yeah. And that's a lot. Like you just summed up, like, no wonder you have some anxiety. And it manifests itself in different ways at different times in your life. I'm a little older than you, and I'm always fascinated by how it shows up sometimes. And when you overdo life and there's all these things that pile up, um, you don't even notice at first that it's slowly accumulating into this anxious and um, you know just where you're going to from there, and all of a sudden it's there. It's like, well, how do I deal with this now?
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people when I talk about my story and my journey now with the podcast is that in November, I got my gallbladder removed.
Mm,
And that sparked a lot of anxiety for me already. I don't like doctors, I don't like procedures, I don't like anything like that. Because then to me, it's like I'm giving myself a reason to be anxious. So I like to stay out of those situations.
yeah.
But I got my gallbladder removed in November of 2023. And then my partner, we got COVID like the day after. So here I am recovering from, to me, a traumatizing surgery, even though that's very, very dramatic because it went the best way it could go. Flying colors, doctor said everything was great, but to me, very traumatizing, not a fan. 10 out of 10, do not recommend.
Right.
um,
Any surgery too, like your anesthetic, everything that's happening to you, the pain, like that's all a traumatic experience, and it's different for everybody.
yeah, it definitely took a toll on my body because up until that point, I had only had my tonsils removed when I was a kid. Yeah. So I got hit with a double whammy. Like I said, I was recovering from my gallbladder removal. And then me and my partner got COVID, and I was not able to see my son and my family for about a week or two. And that was really hard for me. I am a person of routine. And I found out the hard way that I had just had a lot of that anxiety built up, and that, like I said, my dad had passed away in 2022. So I didn't have my dad here with me. I couldn't have my mom here with me when I was recovering. I couldn't see my son. So life had really taken away a lot from me just that week, it felt like,
Hmm.
so coming out of COVID and after getting sick from that for like a week or so, I just mentally was not in a good place. I don't know what had really changed, but I think you said it best when, sometimes we don't notice all of the things that have built up. Again, I got divorced at an early age, had a child at an earlier age. My dad passed away sporadically, and I bought a home and a lot of life changes that we don't think would affect us the way that they do. But if we don't acknowledge them, sometimes they build up. So I think I had finally reached that point in November. And I needed help. I needed to figure it out for my son and for my family and for my partner. So I got some help and I've been talking to a therapist, like I said, ever since, and just trying to acknowledge some of these areas that I might not have paid as much attention to that matter in reality.
Well, and I love the fact that you're at a point though, like the acknowledgement that you're there, and a lot of people don't even see that part. So I think it's important for listeners that perhaps haven't felt that or seen that in themselves. How did you do you think you've just been more in touch with how you're feeling because you've experienced it in a few different forms?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny. A lot of people are probably gonna be like, oh my God, she's only turning 30. It's not the end of the world. But that's been very hard for me to accept.
Yeah.
That my 20s are done, that I will be 30. I have a son who's turning 4. I have a parent who passed away. I think that I'm more in tune with myself. I'm paying attention to myself more because I definitely am a person that takes care of those around me before myself, which could have had an effect on me ultimately on my mental health. We kind of put ourselves on the back burner and I was a mom and I still am a mom. So my son is my priority, my partner is my priority, my family, providing for them and making sure everything one is taken care of. So I put myself on the back burner for sure. And then just kind of with the loss of my dad, almost still not feeling real 2 years later, I'm now focusing on myself and I'm focusing on how things make me feel and how things affect me and what's going to help me move forward. Because I don't think that I focused on those things before. I think before I just took them as they came and didn't process things.
Right.
So I think now, yeah, 100%, it's taking the time to acknowledge those things that ultimately have this effect on us. Because, if you continue to push it down, eventually it just comes out. And it's usually a lot harder, I feel like, to deal with it now than if I would have dealt with it, organically before.
Yeah, and learning the skills to figure out like your pattern. So I listened to one of your like the podcast before I was on, and I really found it interesting, and I think it would be like such a good tip to keep. So you try to keep track of your anxiety attacks, like you actually mark them on a calendar.
I do. It might sound a little crazy,
No.
but, it's just because sometimes, and I don't know if this is just me and my anxiety and my story, but I sometimes don't feel like I've gone as far as I have. I don't feel as accomplished as I should. I never really feel satisfied with myself. I'm very hard on myself. So I realized that putting a little dot on the calendar, and it's in my kitchen, like it's right there for everyone to see. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't know what the little dot is, but now we all do. But that little dot, I put when I have had a panic attack and I've needed to take medicine. And to me,
So can I just interrupt for a sec?
yeah,
Is that your panic button?
yes, that is
Okay.
my panic button.
Right on.
Yes,
Okay. Sorry.
absolutely. Right? That just went full circle. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
But yes, that is for sure my panic button where I mark it down and a couple of days go by and my eyes go to where the last dot is and I feel good.
Right.
I feel good when it's 4 or 5 plus days. I even feel good if it's 2, 3 days. Anything that's not back to back, I feel good
Mhm.
because I'm really am striving to be better and to do better and take the tools that I've learned from this community, from my therapist, from everyone who's helped, and really apply those tools to myself and really practice what I preach, taking care of myself, my mental health, being proactive and just not being a victim to anxiety or panic disorder. And to me, when I see those dates and see that it's been a couple of days or a week, it instills the idea in me that I'm doing it,
Mhm.
because not everyone's going to give you your gold star and tell you you've done great. And not everyone is going to be like asking you randomly, so when was your last panic attack? Because we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
It's a little sensitive of a topic. And I like to kind of keep it out of sight, out of mind. I almost don't like to be asked that, because I don't want to think about it. But for me, again, visually seeing that dot and where it ended up being a bad time before, it's just a reminder how far I've come and how good these days really are, whether I believe that or not. The good days are there and they're ahead of us, and they're going to continue to happen whether we think that they're not. So it's just a little reminder for me personally to just know how far I've come and to get a sense of accomplishment, because sometimes in this community I feel like we get very down on ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we have a panic attack or an anxiety attack or anything that sets us back, we feel like less. We feel less than everybody else. I personally get very disappointed in myself, even though sometimes I know I have zero control over the situation. I just get very upset with myself and feel like I should have done better. I should have known better. I should have figured it out. So it's really kind of going back to that idea that I talk about in a couple of my episodes, is giving yourself grace,
Mhm.
and being nice to yourself, and understanding that these bad days are inevitable, but good days are just as inevitable.
Yeah, and the actual visual for you to see that you've had more good days than that's I think that's that was really kind of an aha moment for me when I heard that. And it's again what some of the resources that are, it's usually very simple things that we can use to help cope and to move forward and even just bring awareness to ourselves, because if we don't bring the awareness to ourselves, you can't bring it out to other people. So the fact that you're being so proactive, that kind of leads me into, how does the podcast help you? Like, what do you get from recording and like the whole process? Because I know for me, it's therapeutic in itself. It's inclusive. It's just that socializing with somebody else, hearing that you're not alone. Again, it's all those things. It sounds so like cliche or whatever, but that's what it does for me. And I just feel like my cup is filled up every time I meet another person and I talk to somebody. What does it do for you, and how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. It's very therapeutic. I think that it's the best therapy that I have ever done, besides talking to an actual therapist. Being
Yeah.
able to talk about what you're going through, and especially when you find somebody that is going through similar or is willing to share their story. It's very, what is the word? It's very humbling, and it makes you not feel alone. And sometimes these disorders make us feel alone. These illnesses, they make us feel like something is wrong with us. And it's really great to get to the truth of we're not alone, like you've stated. And the people that I've met through the community are incredible. Just like yourself, I always tell people you're one of the best people that I've met, just doing this. So the people I would have never have met without this outlet, I couldn't imagine taking that away from me at this point. It gives a voice to those who don't feel like they can speak up, when they feel powerless from whatever they're battling mentally. So it's been very, very therapeutic, very rewarding as well. I love when you always have your family members who chime in and say, I love it. I'm so proud of you. And that's awesome. But it's the people that you wouldn't expect to reach out that do reach out, that tell you that it's helped, or that they're happy you're sharing this, or that they listen to it with their daughter and their daughter relates to it, or someone relates to it, and that I've helped them get through and feel safe and understood. It's very, very humbling and rewarding. And the only other thing that's made me feel that way in my entire life is being a mom. So to have another outlet that does that for me is just great. And it's something as easy as just talking about life and what you're going through. And, you don't have to be knowledgeable about the medical field. I don't know half the crap that I say. I just, Google is the worst.
That's right. And that's the thing, but that's the beauty of it. You're right. I mean, we're not mental health experts. We can't, give people, we can't prescribe what's wrong with you or tell you that this is the way to do it. It's just the relation and relating to other people and being like, to me, that means more as somebody who's trying to find a way to heal. That means more to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a 10 out of 10, I would rather listen to somebody who's lived through this than an expert who has only learned about this in school.
Mhm.
It's very relatable, and I know you and I have talked about that. It's kind of like, well, who are we and why are we doing this? We're living what we're talking about and what we're going through, and we're sharing our stories and giving people a platform to do the same thing, and a safe space to feel heard, understood, valued, and just not alone. And yeah, that is just the icing on the cupcake, is just being able to allow people to be heard, and people listening to me, because who am I?
Right.
I'm just someone who's going through it just like everybody else, but I'm someone that wants to make a change. I want to give people this space just like you. And I love meeting the people that I've met and being able to talk about the topics that we've talked about, because it's not talked about enough, and we always say that, but it's the reality of it. Mental health is not talked about like physical health, and physical illnesses. So I just would love to change that one day. And it's just one day at a time. I'm just enjoying the ride that the podcast has given me, the opportunities, the people, just like yourself. It's just really incredible. This community just is so positive and upbringing that it just, there obviously is going to be some negativity to it as well, and a stigma with mental health. But for me personally, the people that I've met, I couldn't have asked for a better group of friends right now in my life. So it really gave me a little bit more purpose that I think I didn't know I needed, but I found.
Exactly. And yeah, that feeling, like you said, the community, I've had the same experience so far. Everybody's so positive and like you said, there's going to be some that won't be, and will have experiences, and I've had that one time already, and it threw me for a loop because I'm a very trusting person and I like to think most people have good intentions, but that's not always the case. But you learn how to deal with that, and that also kind of shapes where you want to go with your message as well. Like there's always something to learn from each person I've talked to, each, like whether it's a good or bad experience. But like I said, they've all been good so far, and I like the awareness of mental health. Yes, in our community, we're very open about talking about it, but you've hit the nail on the head by saying it's still not. And so, if we can get that message out, you know, I think we think, well, everybody's thinking about mental health sometimes, and you go to work and you wonder what other people are suffering with, and um, like for me, I'm somebody who looks around the room, and I often think, well, how are they doing? They don't look so good today. Are they okay? And is it okay to start asking, like, are you okay today? What's up with you?
Yeah. And unfortunately, those that's not common for us to do. Kind of normal, just, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? Okay. And you move on. We're so transactional with our communication sometimes, and feel like sometimes we can only ask those mental health questions or surface level questions about mental health to our loved ones or our close friends. And that should change. You should be able to ask somebody, like, how are you actually doing today? You look like you didn't sleep very well. Is there something going on? And it's a personal thing. I know a lot of people get a little uncomfortable with talking about mental health and with their feelings and what they're dealing with, and that's fine. But I still want to make sure that I'm the person that people know if they need to talk about it, they can. And
Yes.
I will be here for that 100%.
Exactly. And learning that somebody like, and I think that's the thing, you have to tread carefully too. I mean, I think you're kind of an empath too. Am I wrong?
Yeah, big time.
Like you have to learn, how you were saying about, we're not experts and we didn't go to school, we didn't train. But those are some of the things you have, as you start to kind of go down this road, you have to start learning your boundaries, safe boundaries around yourself, especially if you are having your own mental health or your own anxiety. Listening to somebody is such a wonderful thing, but you don't have to take on their problems. And I only bring this up because I don't know, it's such a touchy way to bring it up, but how do you deal with somebody that perhaps like you've taken, like, you've just taken on everything that they're going through?
Yeah, so basically, I think that I'm able to compartmentalize very well.
Hmm.
I think that since I'm used to multitasking and having a lot on my plate, between work, being a mom, a homeowner, all the fun that comes with those, I'm able to balance a lot at once. And I think that's a really good. It could be good, but it could be bad. I take on a lot sometimes more than I can chew.
Hmm.
But I think that I'm able to compartmentalize very well, where I sympathize with everyone. Like you said, I'm an empath, absolutely. I almost these days, a little off topic, can't even listen to something on the news that involves a kid anymore. And it was never like that before I had kids. It breaks my heart. I can't even listen to that. But hearing people's stories that I've spoken to and kind of what they've put onto the podcast and kind of shared with me, it gets heavy. It absolutely gets heavy, and it gets the I don't really know what the word is, but it gets you just feeling something that you didn't know that you felt or that you were capable of feeling, because I never allowed myself to be really in tune with my feelings. I've never really been that person. I've kind of always pushed things down. And now that I'm being more open to it, I think that just being able to realize that I'm giving people an open forum to speak about their problems and their issues and their battles, but that's not my story. That's their story, and I want to let them tell that. And it might break my heart hearing the story, but I think it makes me stronger knowing that I can have these connections with people. So I don't take it very personal.
Yeah.
I don't try to fix people. I think that I'm just able to, again, the best way is just compartmentalize and just know that, like, I've heard this story. I'm going to put it over here, but what did I learn from that story? And I take what I learned and pull it out. I hear this story. What did I learn from that? Take it, pull it out. So I have a lot of tools in my bag over here.
Yeah.
So I think that, it's hard. 100% is hard, and not everyone can do it. It's very, very hard to hear things that are real, that hurt. But it's beautiful still too. Hearing our stories is beautiful. And I just remember the end goal. When I try to get through these things, when I hear a heartbreaking story, I try to be the light for people. I try to be the end goal, or remember the end goal as, I'm doing this because this person has a story they need to share.
Yeah.
So I need to take myself out of the situation and my feelings and let them share it, and just know that they're heard and understood and that I'm here.
Mhm. Oh yeah. See, that was, I love how you put that. That's yeah, it's exactly how you wind up having to I just I'm not even making sense anymore. I do this all the time. I do this in every episode. I'm like Well, there's nothing left to say on that because you put it so well. And yeah, like you have to take each person's story, and the listening is the key. You're listening to somebody else, and you're giving them the platform to share it out in the ether. And whoever gets to hear it, whoever falls upon it, it's, you just never know who it's going to affect. And that's why we do what we do, I think. So thank you for explaining it that way. That was awesome. I Okay, I want to ask you, like you had talked about in another past episode about things that you do, say you're not having a great day. So if you have that dot on your calendar, do you try to, are you learning skills to like a mood booster or something like that that can help get you through that, or just bring you out of it?
Yeah, so if I see like two dots that are like pretty close to each other, I like to think about what was going on first,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes there are daily events that can trigger our anxiety, and make sense that we're feeling the way that we're feeling. And then some days, not so much. It's not as explainable. You're kind of just having a day, eh. So I like to try to remain very self aware, which is hard. So I do like to journal. I think it's very beneficial to be able to journal and write down, even when you've had a great day, write it down. Write down why your day was great, what you're grateful for, and what you're now going to do with the information you've collected. And usually the options are, because I actually have a journal, and the options are like let it go, talk about it, or figure it out. And I feel like a lot of the times my answer is let it go, because I realize writing it out, it doesn't matter. It hasn't mattered. Things that I was worried about didn't matter. So I like to kind of be a visual learner in that sense, or not really a learner, but I like to see things visually. I like to be able to keep myself accountable. So that's huge for me. And I just started doing that. I actually tried to journal a couple of times throughout the years, and it never worked because I thought that I was pretty boring and didn't have anything to write about.
Yeah.
But now that my life's gotten a little bit more exciting, I definitely have things to write about, just to be able to see, like, hey, maybe, my car broke down and 2 days later I had an anxiety attack or something. I try to be like, was it related to that? Did that kind of lead me to being stressed and overwhelmed? And then I'm a huge ice pack fan, and everybody laughs. My partner laughs at me. We probably have like 15 ice packs in our freezer right now.
Yeah.
But it helps. So I love ice packs, even if I'm, at nighttime, sometimes that's when my anxiety is the worst. Throw an ice pack on my head, lay in bed. It totally relaxes me, changes my mood. And it obviously shocks your nervous system and helps you just kind of recalibrate, I like to say. I'll tell my partner, like, I'm baking right now, like, just leave it alone, let it do its work.
Yeah.
And otherwise, sunshine, huge, huge. And I know we live in the Midwest, and it's just it's needed, and it's crazy. My seasonal depression this winter was real. And I think it's because I was really dealing with my anxiety, so it kind of like added to it. But now that it's getting a little bit warmer and spring is coming, the sun has been huge. Sometimes I just like to stand outside and just realize that the world has so much more to offer, and I'm this little part of it, and like what I'm going through is going to be okay. That there's so much more out there, there's so much more beauty. Even looking at the grass or a tree or going for a quick walk, it's very therapeutic. So that really, really helps me. And I'm a big movie watcher. Like you kind of mentioned in my bio, it's cliche, but I am. Because if you find something that makes you happy and calms your nerves, I'm all for it. And to me, that's a movie, but it's usually a movie that I've seen, because I don't know how I'm going to react if it's a movie I haven't seen, because I hate scary shit.
Right. Yeah.
So, my partner makes fun of me because I will literally watch the same movie for like 4 days in a row, and then I'll like switch to another one. But it's because it's a comfort, I'm used to it and I like it. And it makes me feel relaxed because I know what's happening. I know what's going on, because sometimes I think anxiety takes away that control and that predictability for us where we feel like we don't know what's going on and we're not going to figure this out. And as silly as it sounds, like just turning on a movie that you might have watched for the past 4 days helps you get back into a mindset of like, I know exactly what's happening here. I'm fine. Like, this is a great movie. It's just it's a mental game, I don't know. It's whatever works. It might sound quirky.
No, I've read something about that too, and it's something. It actually is a thing. I have a few shows that I just watch over and over, like The Office. I've watched over and over. My kids have Mom, the show Mom. I'm on Cheers, and it just makes me feel like it's even if because I usually do other things while I'm watching TV too, so it's like it's almost a comfort in the background. So I think you hit the nail on the head again. I'm just gonna keep saying that.
I think I'm on a roll.
You are. And you mentioned Lego too. You talked about Lego in like we talked about it on your podcast, and I just
Oh,
love that.
Legos are huge. Yeah,
Lego,
Legos are
yeah,
still waiting for them to sponsor me. So if you know any friends over there, come on, let's get the Lego train going. I need
let's do
some.
it.
I'll do whatever they need. But yeah, I'm a huge Lego fan. I think that it's just again like focusing on one thing when your brain is racing and all over the place when you're able to sit down, focus on one thing and then the accomplishment that comes with it. It's very rewarding. Again, as silly as that might sound to somebody, it's very rewarding building something from a pile of blocks and feeling accomplished, and just being able to see what you've made. And like I said, it just really alters that focus as well. Like I've had times where I could feel a panic attack coming or I'm a little on edge and I will just go get a box of Legos and just start doing it. Could be for 10 minutes, but usually not. I'm a little bit of an overachiever and I usually do end up finishing the sets, even if they take a long time, because
Right.
like then I need that sense of accomplishment. So it could be like 5 hours, panic attack is long gone, whatever. I'm feeling great. I'm still sitting here doing the Lego. So, it's a win win at the end of the day for that.
Yeah, and see, that's where I know we talked about because, like, when I was growing up, we didn't have as many of the Lego kits. But either way, like, whichever way you look at it, Lego is popular for a reason, and it's helped. I think. I mean, how many kids, instead of looking at a computer, which actually does add to your anxiety, you're getting on social media. You're learning how to problem solve, and you have control of like the thing you're building and the creativity that comes in that. And I think that creativity is a huge outlet, um, to focus on with mental health and getting yourself into a zone. Like you said, you could wind up doing it for 5 hours. Well, where did the panic attack go? It just kind of fizzled out. And that alone is just a beautiful thing. So Lego is like, you've got to sponsor Jess because
Please do, because again, I always joke, and it is just a joke. I have to remind that to people, but these panic attacks are getting expensive. So I would
right.
like some help from Lego.
So do you have a favorite kit?
So my mom actually got me for Christmas. This is gonna show how dorky I am. I love Back to the Future. Have
Ah,
you seen the trilogy?
yes, yes.
Okay, good. Because some people are
Many
like,
times,
"What is that?" But
that's
they
actually
came
one of the
out with the DeLorean.
right.
Yep. So my mom for Christmas, she got me the DeLorean, and that was the biggest one that I have done in a long time. And that one did start because of a panic attack. And it's great. It was huge. And like there's lights that come on for the flux capacitor and
Ooh,
all of that. It's great. So huge fan of Back to the Future. So that one was very
super
what's
cool.
like it's just very self-rewarding.
Well, and then you see lights and things flashing. I didn't know they had that even. I haven't done it, like I said, any of the like the actual sets or anything. And I might have to go get some Lego sets.
You might have to see, because like my son though, he's the opposite. he wants mom to do the sets,
Mhm.
but he likes the box of just the blocks.
Right.
So he's kind of like a creative little guy on that aspect, but he wants mom over here to build him the car.
Right.
But
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
more for it. If he wants to just sit there with the blocks, it's awesome to see what he comes up with. And that's great. That's the point of being able to help these kids too. Just,
Mhm.
learn and be creative and stay away from technology. And, I'm sure it's therapeutic for him as well. You're sitting there building something cool, you show your mom, and it's awesome.
Well, and you're enjoying moments with your mom while you're doing it. And those are some of my fondest memories growing up, was sitting down. My dad often got down on the ground with us and he would start creating with me and my sister. And those are some of like the best memories I have. I can even remember the feel of the carpet and like what I was looking at when I was on that level. And those are good memories. And you're creating those for you and your son. So that's a beautiful thing again, too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, as a parent battling mental health issues, my son is my driving force for a lot of what I do, and
Mhm.
how I will continue to do things. So, thinking about the moments that I have with him, when I am feeling anxious or panicky, those end up really getting me through.
Mhm.
So, one day I hope he realizes what he did for his mom and how he really did help her.
And Lego helps us build those moments one moment at a time. So was that a good
Right? Even more. We're going to copy that. We're going to cut that piece right there and we're going to send that to them repeatedly until we get some response and get some Legos.
exactly?
Be
Oh, that's
like, come
amazing.
on, guys. It was beautiful. We'll do it again.
Yes. Oh, so is there, okay, I ask all my guests this question, but what is the last best thing that you do every day before you go to bed?
Hmm. The last best thing?
Hmm. Build Lego?
Right? We're just gonna try to throw that in and really get this going at this point. Um, um, it's gonna sound very, very cliche. The last best thing, I always talk to my mom.
Mm,
It's huge for me, and if you've listened to my episodes, you know the importance that she has on my life, on my mental health, just on me as a person. So it's very important for me to make sure that I say goodnight or just any communication with her before bed. It's needed.
mhm.
That's my person. So I think it would have to be mom.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's very important, just even if you're not battling mental illness, to just have that, because at one point we all need someone to be able to turn to,
Mhm.
and we need that for survival. I really think we weren't meant to go through this life alone, and whatever that looks like for other people, I hope they find that, because we need it. We need each other. We need to keep each other safe and humble and just be there. That's huge.
It's huge, and we're social beings, right? Even like I know for me, I tend to isolate, or like I am a bit of an introvert, but I want to see people. It's a funny combination. But when I'm done, I go home and I refresh myself and
And then we don't see Carrie for like 10 days.
yeah.
She did enough peopling today.
Yes, and I've learned this about myself though. So it's like even your calendar tip, like I think that that's such a good idea in that respect too. Like how many days did I isolate? Like how many days did I decide to just like, sit at home and hunker down? Um, and then realize, okay, well maybe that was a bit too long. How can I get out of that pattern? Love that tip so much.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that I could provide that little tidbit for you.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a introvert myself, so kind of what I like to remind myself is we need to keep going. Excuse me. And even if I don't feel like going somewhere, I still do. I push through it and have realized that I might not like people because I don't. I have my circle of people, okay? I might not like it, but it's another one of those things that I think personally for me, for my survival, it's needed. Is continuing to go do those things, to push myself to be uncomfortable, and I've found it's a greater reward for me than a downfall. And again, that's not necessarily the way it is for everybody. Some people get, anxiety when going out or doing this and that, which is fine. I just have realized that like my life can't stop. I cannot stop when I'm having a day where I just want to sit down on the couch and not do anything, because my mental health is so dependent, or not my mental health, but people depend on me. So I need to make sure for, my little boy and for my partner that I'm okay. And it is okay to relax and have days where you stay home. But I just know for me, I've just really been like, okay, you don't want to go to the store. Too bad we're going to the store. Like it's good to get out there. It's good to do those things still and just kind of get some fresh air. It's always good for the body, I think. And then, yeah, I mean, I kind of go home and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, at least you could say that you went though, so.
Yeah, exactly. You can say that you did that, and yeah, like I say out here because I'm in Alberta, Canada, and we've actually had a super mild winter this year, but and not as much snow as normal. But sometimes, like, because I was working from home too, quite a bit, and just putting my feet, like getting up and getting away from the computer and just stepping outside for a few minutes, putting my feet in the snow, kind of like your ice pack on your head, and it just somehow getting outside and feeling grounded, what a difference that can make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge and therapeutic, and I think it's something that definitely we don't think about enough, because we're like, why would we go outside? Like, it's not a big deal. But I just think that, yeah, it just gives you like this sense of like belonging almost too. It's hard to explain. I don't know. I think that it's good to get outside, let the air hit your face, let the sun hit your skin. It just provides something that people can't. It's great. I'm a big fan. I'm a huge outdoor fan.
Well, that was another awesome episode of the Carry On Carry podcast, and I'm kind of biased, so but I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. The only part that I'm not super happy about is that our interview got cut short because of some kind of technical problems there. Anyways, life happens. This happens, and we basically were kind of just wrapping it up anyways at that point. But I do want to share her handles and all of the places you can find her. Jess has her own, as we talked about, her own podcast, and it's called the Panic Button Podcast. You can find her on Instagram at panic_button podcast, and you'll find her link to her link tree, which will take you to her shows. She has episodes available on YouTube, Spotify, and yeah, you'll love her episode. She's just such a great personality, and she's fun to listen to. She gets real about all things mental health, anxiety especially, and I think it's just such an important point of view from Jess's point. So you don't want to miss out on her episodes and her podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in again today. Thanks for your support. If you would like to continue listening, or if you got something out of this episode, please give me a follow and a share and all those good things. I would love your support, and I appreciate all of the support so far. You can give me a follow on Instagram at carryonwithcarry_podcast, or on Facebook at Carry On With Carry Podcast. The show is available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. I hope you guys are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. And let's hope that, with all of this talk and communication about mental health, let's try to help just one person at a time.